The main difference between the XR100 and the CRF125, the 2019 and newer has fuel injection. All the models have electric start, and it has a small and big wheel size option where the XR100 only has the big wheel, plus the slightly different ergonomics and looks. But if you want to learn all of the practical differences between these bikes and what they actually mean when riding or owning one, keep on watching. The wheel size, so the Honda XR100, it only comes in the 19 and 16 inch wheel and tire size. Comparing that to the CRF125, this would be like the big wheel model, because this has the big wheel 19-16 inch as well as the small wheel 17 and 14 inch. What does that mean when actually riding it? Well, the smaller wheels have a slightly lower seat height, so it's easier to reach the ground if you have short legs, but it also makes a difference when trail riding. The bigger wheels, they roll over obstacles a little bit better, as well as better stability, where the smaller wheels, they're a little bit easier to turn and handle in tight spots, making it a little bit quicker and less effort to turn it. The seat height on the XR100 is 30.5 inches, and the seat height on the small wheel CRF125 is 29.1 inches, so about an inch and a half lower, and then the big wheel has a 30.9 inch seat height, so about the same or slightly bigger than the 100. And if you're unsure what size bike is right for you based on your height as well as weight, I got a free size chart that you can download. Click the link in the description below. The wheelbase on the CRF125 small wheel is 48 inches, while on the XR100 and CRF125 big wheel, it's 49.4. So 1.4 inches, what does that mean? Well, the longer wheelbase makes the bike a little bit more stable. So going over rocks and roots and bumps, it's not going to bounce back and forth as much. It's not going to wheelie as easily, especially going up a hill, or you're not as likely to go over the bars down a steep hill. Now the weight, the XR100 is noticeably lighter. It's about 173-ish pounds. Wet weight, ready to ride, all the fluids, whereas the CRF125, the small wheel, is 193 pounds, and the big wheel is 199 pounds. 20 to 26 pounds heavier with the CRF125. That's due to the bigger engine, the added electric start and fuel injection, and maybe the chassis, maybe the suspension's a little bit heavier, but it's just a little bit heavier of a bike. When riding it, it is noticeably a little bit lighter, and if you tip over, it's a little bit easier to pick up. If you really care about weight that much, then go with the 100. Moving on to the engine, you got a 125cc air-cooled engine, and this is a 99cc, so at least 25% bigger engine. And that equates to more low-end mid-range torque. Although the top-end horsepower is pretty close to the same, the 125 might have an extra half a horsepower, but with the less weight, the power-to-weight ratio is pretty close to the same. It is a little bit easier to lug down low at a lower RPM, like third gear, rolling on the throttle. It pulls a little bit better than 100. It's basically a big bore 100. Now, the even bigger difference is probably the transmission. The 100 has the traditional 5-speed manual clutch. First gear is super low. It's like a granny gear. You can putt really nice on it. Whereas the 125, it has a 4-speed manual clutch transmission. So for some reason, Honda decided to have a 4-speed in this. It shares, I think, the same as like the Grom, the street bike, and maybe a couple other bikes. I don't know, maybe it was just cheaper to produce it like that, but this is probably the only thing I don't like about the CRF 125, because it's missing that extra 5th gear, and it's a little bit more clunkier when shifting. Also, the first gear is a little bit higher. It's not ultra low like the 100, but it's still low enough. To get going in first gear, you could probably be going like 2 or 3 miles an hour, where this, it's more like 3 or 4 miles an hour. And if you don't like that, well, you can just change the gearing with an easy sprocket swap. Hello there.
Dude, that thing's older than dirt.
Yeah, well, an old bike is better than no bike. Now, the starting system, the XR100, it's always been kickstart only, and when dialed right with the carb jetting, it's pretty easy to start. The CRF125, it came out in 2013, and it's always had the electric start plus the backup Kickstarter, which is nice if your battery goes dead, although the electric start is pretty reliable. Now, another major thing is the carb versus fuel injection. The XR100 has always had a carburetor. It's pretty simple. It can be problematic if you use pump gas and let it sit for several months or a couple of years. It gums up the jets and causes it to not start or run poorly. Whereas the CRF125, it started out with a carburetor in 2013, but in 2019 they changed to EFI, electronic fuel injection, which honestly I prefer because it's more reliable. It's not going to have nearly as many problems when you let it sit for a few months or a year. It's still going to start up right away. It always idles smoothly. I don't think I've ever had this thing bog on me when even whacking the throttle at low RPM. It just smoothly accelerates. I really like the fuel injection on the system. Moving on to the brakes, the XR100 has drum brakes, front and rear, nice and simple. They're pretty outdated, whereas the CRF125, it has a disc front brake, although it still has the drum rear brake. Rear brakes are pretty decent, but the 125 definitely has some better braking power on the front. As far as the suspension goes, neither of these are adjustable other than the shock preload, which adjusts the sag to make it lower or higher based on your weight. But there's no damping, clicker adjustments. They're nice and simple, reliable. I recommend not taking these boots off. Some people do because they don't like the look of them. But if you take them off, they're more likely to have leaking fork seals because all that dirt and dust and mud will get on the fork tubes and then they'll jam into those fork seals, and that's when they start leaking. But as far as the travel goes, the XR100 has 4.7 to 5 inches of travel, where the CRF125 small wheel has about 5.5 to 5.9 inches. So noticeably more, but the big wheel has 6.7 inches of travel. What does that actually mean? Well, the more travel you have, the more potential performance it is for a comfortable ride, because that extra suspension can absorb more of the impact, so you won't feel it as much in your arms and legs and your body. It's less fatiguing if the suspension can soak up more of that bump. So if you have less suspension, it's going to feel a little bit more harsh, assuming it's set up for your weight and riding style. Now, these are beginner trail bikes, so they're set up pretty soft, which is perfect for learning on or riding trails at low speeds, like under 15 miles an hour, because it's going to be plush and soak up those small bumps, whereas like a race bike with stiffer suspension, it's going to feel harsh because it's meant to be ridden faster or go over big jumps, so it's not going to compress and soak up those small bumps as well. What about reliability and maintenance? Well, if you look in the dictionary for reliability, it's going to be these Honda XR engines, or now the CRF engines. As long as you change the oil regularly, you keep the air filter clean, these things are going to last thousands of hours or decades. The problem is when you go to buy a used one, some people neglect them, often kids who don't want to do any maintenance. They never change the oil, and these engines end up smoking or ticking, making loud noises. They overheat the engine, the top end is shot, and those used parts are getting expensive to find. So change your oil, keep your air filter clean, keep the chain properly tensioned so it doesn't fall off and jam up into the crankcase and crack it, and then use good quality gas. Now, how about the price? There's two different generations of the XR100. You got the 1985 to 2000, which is this style. It's kind of that retro banana seat with the nice plush foam, where the 2001 to 2003 has the more modern flat seat and the radiator shrouds, even though it doesn't have radiators. It's more like the CRF125. Now, if you're looking for the cheapest one, it's going to be this 85 to 2000 model. This one is a 1996. They're going to be in the $800 to $1,500 range, depending on where you live, as well as the condition of it. 2001 to 2003, XR100 is going to be in the $1,000 to $1,800 range, again, depending on the condition. Now, there is the CRF100, which is essentially the same thing as the XR100. It just has a different name. And those are going to be in the $1,300 to $2,200 range. And the CRF125, if you get the 2013 to 2018 model with the carburetor, it's going to be in the $1,500 to $2,200 range, whereas the 2019 and newer with the fuel injection, it's going to be in the $2,000 to $3,200-ish range. And the big wheel model is usually $300-400 more than the smaller wheel. And if you're new to dirt biking or getting back into it, I want to share the 4 biggest mistakes that new riders make that cause them to break the bank. Learn what those are by watching this video right here. I'm Kelly Fagan from MXHideout. I want you to ride safe so that you can have fun.